Tina koutou katoa, no mahare mai, kore turis toko ingoa, ko koro te koro mātua whakatū. Welcome to this ordinary meeting of Nelson City Council. We started the meeting at 9 just to address some procedural matters about our timing so that we could come from Zoom and then in here for our meeting. So I'd like to start today with karakia, and I think it's one where I'd like us all to say karakia together. So we won't lead, we'll do this as a collective, and ask if you could all stand for tuia. Tuia ke rongo, tuia ke raro, tuia ke roto, tuia ke waho, tuia te here tangata, ka rongo te po, ka rongo te ao, umi, huye, tae kie. Kia ora, thank you. I haven't received any apologies for today's meeting. Welcome our youth councillors, Rosie and Darcy. Welcome to our meeting. We have order of business as set out on the agenda sheet. I'm going to come to the public forum in a moment because we do have a public forum presentation this morning. But first, I'll just go to interests. Any interest updates, Councillor Edgar?
Yes, it probably hasn't been updated on the charities register yet, but I have confirmed appointment on the Nelson Tasman Region Hospice.
Thank you, we'll make that note. And I've got an update that I am coming off the Interim Regional Skills Leadership Group, and that's going on, just checking. Okay, so thank you. Any others to address today? Any updates? No, all right, so that's our interests. So we'll move on. Just a reminder about conflicts, just to make sure that you're aware and thinking about any conflicts that arise during the course of the meeting. If you're not sure, please just signal to me for a brief adjournment so we can have a conversation and you can get some advice from the Chief Executive. Public forum today. I will welcome John Gilbertson and Barbara Bowen, who are here. John is speaking on behalf of the Te Hunanui Business and Citizens Association, and Barbara, as we know, is principal of Te Hunanui School, joined by Ainsley and David in support. Mark French from the Te Hunanui Community Centre was going to be here, but due to timing changes, he's been unable to make it. So David is from the Te Hunanui Beach Camp. So welcome to you all, and your subject today is you want to speak on extension of consultation for the Regional Public Transport Plan. Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor, and we're really delighted to be here presenting to you today. We're basically trying to suggest to you, after our experience this last week, that we'd like to suggest that you review your communication strategy with a view to improving community communication and engagement processes, particularly on plans and documents requiring public submissions and input. This document here is an example of what I would call an absolute non-notification. So we have a number of examples that highlight a communication problem for us within our area. An example might be that back in November 2020, councillors visited Te Hunanui, and this meeting was poorly communicated and as a result, poorly attended by community members. Currently, council has out for submission the Regional Public Transport Plan. Now, to be notified of this plan and to actually find it requires quite some skill, as it is buried not in the submissions section of the council website where you'd expect to find it, but in the Shape Nelson section with no links from either. So you can't find it by going to one place without fossicking around. Having searched and finally found the plan, we note that the survey, which this document here, which is quite sizable, and I'm sure you've all read, having found it and searched for it, you find that the survey that this document is actually based on for the region has a total sample of 490 people. Now, I know this was done during COVID in 2020. However, one would think that because you've done a survey and you only got 590 people from the 100,000 people in the Bay, that you might actually start trying to engage some more. From a skim read of the information, there's absolutely no sign that Te Hunanui would be impacted until we discovered, hidden in the proposed routes, that there were some major plans for changes in the Te Hunanui community. Now, these would have major impacts on the vulnerable members in our community. And when we contacted a number of key stakeholders in Te Hunanui, including the community centre and the school and the holiday park, they were totally unaware of the planned changes in the regional public transport plan. The most notable change is, of course, that it removes the current bus route from Muritai Street and places it on Te Hunanui Drive. This area is already congested, dangerous and difficult to negotiate, particularly for the young and elderly. And reading further, we note that there is a proposal to, in brackets, introduce clearways for buses. Should these occur on Te Hunanui Drive, they would impact widely in our community. It seems that although TBCA, the Te Huna Business and Citizens Association, is considered a stakeholder in some matters, in others we are not, council staff have now acknowledged that the community has potential changes to the bus routes running through and alongside it, and they advised us that they will accept a late submission from Te Hunanui Business Association and others from Te Hunanui. The problem with this is that it means by the time we mount a public meeting so that council staff can present the draft plan to our community and the changes that will be happening in Te Hunanui, any submission from the results of this meeting will need to be prepared under pressure and rushed. So what do we want? We would really like to see a review of your communications process going forward. Our suggestions are, in any future media article, include a list of keywords or suburbs that are going to be affected by this plan. Perhaps this might make it easier for the reader to isolate the matters which are relevant to them. Update the database of key stakeholders in each of the city's suburbs so that their contact people can be directly contacted and alerted. Mount more public meetings in the suburbs that bring staff and councillors to meet with the public, with the residents, and please publicise these widely. And realise that there are a large number of the community that do not use social media and the web. Therefore, obtaining documents, please make it easier. Some of our community members were told by staff we don't give them out anymore and that they would have to get permission to give them a copy. The TBCA are now working on organising our public meeting on the 23rd of March at 7 o'clock at the Te Hunanui School Muritai Centre, at which council staff will present the plan. Councillors, of course, are very welcome to attend. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Barbara.
Kia ora, I'm Barbara Bowen from Te Hunanui School. I also live in Richmond. I obviously work in Te Hunanui and I use the bus service. So I was quite surprised to hear the impact that it was going to have on all of those aspects. And just this last week, when I sort of Googled and thought about what I've missed, I put in those keywords, Te Hunanui changes to the bus routes, Muritai Street, all of those kinds of things, and didn't really find any links to this plan. And I'm just wondering how widespread that consultation was. Were the key people identified, or was it just anyone who came across the link? There's nothing that would signal that Muritai Street was going to be changed as a bus route. We've just spent, the council spent a lot of money in that area with lovely cycleways, which are really well used. The buses work very alongside those in terms of the active transport and using different routes of getting to school, and they're being really well used. It slowed down traffic in Muritai Street and it is a much nicer place for the children to cross and to get to school on. And I am concerned that that would be changed. I did wonder whether the people who did participate in the survey understand what they were commenting on or have any idea of the changes proposed, or were they just general questions? Because that's kind of what they look like. The questions or the answers to the survey questions don't actually seem to relate to the outcomes that are proposed. And what's the real intention here, and why is it being rushed through without authentic communication? I'll just give you one example, and obviously I'm going to put in a submission, and I have no intention of going through that now. But we have children who move into Tahunanui. We have emergency housing, we have a lot of motels, the motor camp, and they might start there because moving into Nelson's not always an easy thing to get accommodation. There's not a lot of accommodation for that middle range, I guess, family to aspire to in Tahunanui. It tends to be both ends of the spectrum. They often end up out of Atawhai or Stoke and rely on the bus service to get to school. Now, at the end of the day, this bus goes at 5 to 3, which means they need to be out there when other people aren't. And I can see the children at the bus stop outside my window. If that was moved to Tahunanui Drive, there's no way that I would allow children to go there.
Barbara, thank you. I've got over questions of Councillor Rainey first.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thanks very much for your presentation this morning. I certainly have a lot of, I agree with a lot of the things that you said, and I have a lot of empathy for the things that you've suggested. Just something that I picked up on that you said, John, and I would like you to clarify. Maybe I missed it. You said that you represent Tahunanui Business and Citizens Association. Has it always been there?
No. Last year we went through a process of reviewing our incorporated society constitution, and it has now been extended to be the Citizens Association. And partly the reason for that, Pete, was because a number of the issues the Business Association were being asked to express to council and to other people were also related to the citizens that lived in the community. So we've widened it so that we can actually talk to our community and the business community and try and bring it together.
Thanks for that. And a subsequent question, I presume that the Incorporated Society, it's not trustee, it's a certificate of incorporation is on the charities, or the Incorporated Society's register.
That was done last year.
Thank you. Thanks for that.
Councillor Noonan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you for coming in. There's just one thing I want to just check with you. I think you said that someone was wanting, was it a hard copy that they were wanting, and I presume they walked in off the street and wanted it, and that was the difficulty? Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Actually, two people that I'm aware of approached council for a hard copy of the document, and were told that they couldn't be given that because they weren't giving it out any longer, or that's my paraphrase of it. I don't know the exact words.
Thank you, John.
But basically they were told they'd have to get permission.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? No other questions. Ainsley and David, is there anything you wanted to add? Want to close off?
No,
okay, all right. Barbara and John, thank you very much. And I understand why, just so this is a regional transport committee matter, but because of the time frame, John asked that he could come in here because this is about making sure that we're communicating really well to our community and making sure that we're connecting with our community in a meaningful way. So I felt it was important that you did have your chance to be heard today. I do think, Councillor McGurk, there's probably some follow-up to happen from after this meeting. So I'm going to leave that in your hands to make sure you're satisfied that really good engagement has gone on to drive discussions.
yes, I am. There are a number of there are interesting ones there that it has been widely circulated. This is something that's been going on for several months, and I suppose what's happened is that the timelines have compressed it, that we have to have something in by April to be in the long-term plan. But I acknowledge the points you're making about the different mediums and the different ways that people feel like communicated, and the changes that are proposed to be impacted on the Tahunanui community.
Can I answer that, Mayor?
Absolutely. John?
Brian, yeah, I mean, I think the point is that on some matters, the Tahuna Business and now the Citizens Association have been consulted and been involved in the development. For instance, the cycleway is a classic example. We drew the council's attention to the problems. Matt supported that, and we worked with council staff on that. But we were totally unaware of this document at all, because it wasn't highlighted that there was going to have any impact on us. Because when you read the publications you put out there, it talks about the region and going with buses to Motueka and to Atawhai and the Brook and places like that. And we're thinking, oh, well, that's, you don't actually focus on something that's not within your gambit. So, yeah, I mean, the good thing is that in talking to Marg, she's basically offered to extend it, and the staff have offered to come out. The problem I'm saying is because of that, it pressures it, and the result that you get might not be as positive as you want.
Okay, thank you, John. So look, I think what we'll do is the members of the RTC might just have a little conversation about this when we get to an adjournment, maybe, or when we get to the end of the meeting, just to make sure that we've understand what the steps are going to be. I think you've highlighted, as Councillor Rainey said, some very constructive points, and that are important to making sure that when we are particularly going through a consultation process that's a statutory process, that we give really good notice and communicate out well and communicate out early, so that those affected communities know that this is something that they should be taking interest in. So thank you. I appreciate you taking the time coming away from your work today to come in and see us. And I'm sorry there was a little bit of a delay getting to public forum this morning. Kia ora, thank you. Now on my agenda, councillors, it tells me that the youth councillors are going to be joining us for the full youth council for a morning tea. And I'm just going to see Ruth. Are our youth councillors here yet? They're all here. All right. Okay. So we're going to have a break. They were expecting us to break at 10:15. So I know we've only just got started, but I think we'll do that anyway, because several of them need to get back to school. Some won't. Some will be staying here, but some need to get back to school. So I'll adjourn the meeting. And the youth councillors here, actually, what I might do is just, could we invite them to come through just before I adjourn? That would be great. If we could just say hello to them all.
Yeah.
No, just leave the live streaming going. Or maybe just to leave the live streaming going. I'm hoping the youth council is going to come through and introduce themselves so that we can. In the meantime, the next item on the agenda was the Mayor's report, of which, in the interests of time, given we're now sort of an hour and a half later than I thought it would be, I'll leave my Mayor's report for next week. Kia ora tātou. Kia ora. Welcome, come on in. Come on through. I'm going to ask, welcome to our council meeting. Welcome to the youth councillors. Rachel, I'm going to invite the youth councillors to just sort of circle up, put with that microphone on and introduce themselves. Tell us a little bit about who they are and how long they've been on youth council. So who's going to be first up?
I'll go first. Kia ora, I'm Theo, I'm from Nelson College, and I'm a third-year youth councillor.
Kia ora, Theo.
Hi, I'm James. This is my first year on youth council, and I'm representing Garran College.
Kia ora, James.
Hi, I'm Malika, and this is my first year on the Nelson Youth Council, and I'm from Garran College.
Nā koe, Malika.
Hi, I'm Charles. I'm from Nelson College, and this is my first year on the Nelson Youth Council.
Kia ora, Charles.
Hi, I'm John B. This is my first year, and I'm from Garran.
Kia ora, John B.
Okay, my name's Chanel. I'm from Waimea College, and this is my first year on the council, well, Nelson Youth
Kia
Council.
ora, Charles. What's the first timers? Let's go.
Hi, I'm Emily. I'm from NCG, and it's also my first year at Youth Council.
Kia ora.
Hi, I'm Sylvie. I'm from NCG, and this is my first year.
I'm
Isla. I'm from NCG. This is my first year on the Youth Council.
Kia ora, Isla.
Kia ora, everyone. I'm Rasika. This is my second year in Nelson Youth Council, and I'm representing Nelson College for Girls and Whitney's Community.
Kia ora, Rasika.
Kia ora, I'm Greg. This is my third year on Nelson Youth Council, and I'm from NCG.
Oh, Greg. Greg, are you the longest serving so far? Oh, the two of you. Yes, you are. Right. Okay.
Awesome. Hi, my name's Ruth. I go to Nayland College, and this is my first year on the Youth Council.
Kia ora, Ruth.
Hi, my name's Holly. I'm from Waimea College and this is my first year on the Nelson Youth Council.
Kia ora, Holly.
Kia ora, ko Asher tuku ingoa. I'm at Nayland and this is my first year.
Kia ora, Asher.
Kia ora, my name is Will. This is my second year on Youth Council and I represent Nayland College.
Kia ora, Will. And
Kia ora, my name's Darcy and this is my first year on Youth Council and I go to Nelson College.
Kia ora, Darcy.
Kia ora, I'm Rosie. This is my second year on Youth Council and I'm representing Girls College.
Kia ora, Rosie. Well, fantastic. Wonderful to have you all here. We're going to break. Really lovely to welcome you, and we very, very much appreciate the time that you give to our community and also to us as elected members to bring youth voice, participation, support the work that we're doing, so the mahi that we're doing. So great to have you here, and we'll break now for morning tea and then let you get away to where you're supposed to be today. You're welcome to stay for the whole meeting if you want to, but we may not. Okay, we're taking the Jevon. All right, we're now back live streaming our meeting. Meeting's in session. Just ask anybody to ask everyone if they could just be a little bit quiet in their conversations while I try and run the meeting. It would be great. We're on item 6, pages 6 through 18 of the agenda. And you've got the report. Who's the officer that's going to present this report? Oh, no, I said, but no, before we went to the break, I said, given we're a little bit running a bit behind where I was hoping we'd be today, for interest of time, my news report will wait till next week. So Robin, you're on. Elected members, remuneration and reimbursement. So reimbursement and expenses policy. Are there any corrections or additions to the report?
Thank you. And Deputy Manager Governance and Support
Thanks,
Services is joining me. There is one small addition on page 12. This is the 6.3. It's the just before at the very top, communications allowance. We're just for clarity, we're also adding that the lump sum allowance will be prorated in an election year.
Could you just give us the clause number, Robin? That will be
clause 6.3.
6.3. Oh, okay, it rolls over the page.
Yeah.
Okay. So that will be prorated.
In an election year.
Oh, right, that's fine.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, with that adjustment, we're all good to go. All right.
Thank you.
Any questions for the officers? Councillor Noonan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you, I do have a question regarding reporting back, and it's at 10.5. It seems to have changed from previous times. I mean, I do believe that if we go away and for some learning and it's ratepayer funding, I think that they should actually get a report of some nature. I'm pretty comfortable about what method may be used, but it is ratepayer funding that we're using, and I think we should be reporting to the ratepayer about our learnings.
Through the chair, it is absolutely up to you. This is your policy as to how you want to be reporting back. I would just point out that the expenditure, every 6 months, we send that out to yourselves, and following that, that is loaded to the website. So if the public did want to see a list of what you were attending, that's readily available. Previously, we've suggested that it is through the councillor's newsletter as information sharing with your peers.
So if I could respond to that, Madam Mayor.
Okay.
Look, I don't think that's sufficient. I think, as we've had in the public forum this morning, it's actually really difficult for the public to actually locate much. And until that's remedied, I would prefer maybe to have a short report, maybe via your Mayor's report, a brief paragraph if someone's been away, this is where they need to write it themselves. This is where they went, and this is what their learnings were. I'm open to the floor. I'm open to the council to give some feedback on that, but I'm very strong that it needs to be transparent, and I don't think that's sufficient.
All right, I'd prefer not through the Mayor's report. I think the meetings coming to reports sort of should be for, I allow some updates, that's fine within their sort of scope within chairs and Mayor's reports. This is a decision-making forum, and I think we need to, otherwise I think we could be heading off on all sorts of tangents about, the scopes that we wouldn't anticipate, and suddenly we wouldn't know, where we're going with things. So I prefer we did it. And I'd have to say, look, sometimes you'll go away, and I know it's just as an event rather than training. So I just wonder about, is it meant to be event and training, or is it an event inclusive of training, just at 10.5?
I think when it refers to an event for a report, I'd suggest that it would be following a conference, definitely not training.
No, okay.
It would be something more significant that is something that would be relevant to share.
Okay, and I think that's appropriate. I think about what we have done in the past. I think about when some of us been to Local Government New Zealand conferences, and we've been to some of those, the sessions that we've had there, and we've felt that was really useful, and we've come back and written something up about the event that we've attended and what we've learnt at that. So up to you, councillors. But I'm comfortable with what's in the report. Councillor Noonan would like something where it must be reported through a meeting process. I'm in your hands. Where would you like to go with that? Councillor Fulton and then Councillor Eager.
I'm comfortable as it's worded. I think that we
go away and we attend conferences and we attend training and we bring it up through our meetings, through our processes. We might mention that this is what we learned or this is what we heard. And I'm really comfortable that it needs to be in an informal, sharing that knowledge can be in an informal way as much as in a formal way. If you personally want to share it in a formal way, I think that gives you the opportunity to, but I do think that we're all time pressured. Some of us can barely keep up with the reading that we've got and the feedback that we've got to give already. So, you know, I've got 15 handwritten pages from the Climate Change Symposium last week, happy to share it, but I don't probably have time to turn it into a polished report. And I'm quite comfortable that that learning will come through in the meetings at various times in the next year.
Speaker.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, Councillor Fulton has probably said the bulk of what I wanted to say. So I agree with all of her comments that, yeah, learning should be demonstrable. Look, and there's also things like making good decisions where, you know, it's just sort of not relevant to do a report. You know, again, it's a qualification course rather than, you know, and the learning will be through, you know, hearings and things like that. So I think it's good to have the opportunity. And, you know, depending on what it is, you know, we could always, you know, ask, you know, oh, look, here's an international thing I went to. Is there an opportunity for us to have, you know, a workshop and I could present the knowledge to councillors or something like that? So it probably doesn't exclude, you know, for something extraordinary, you know, having another mechanism to share. So I guess what this puts in is just, look, this is the minimum.
But so if you want to do it, that's the mechanism. But there's, you know, you can come to talk to the chair of a committee and say, look, actually, something I think is really relevant to the work that we're doing, and we'd like to include that. There's nothing to exclude that, as Councillor Eagers saying. Councillor Laurie, and then I want to move on. This one. All right, I'll go to Councillor Laurie on related to this matter.
Oh yeah, I was going to say that an email with bullet points can suffice that gets shared with the group. I also think we should avoid the word learnings because it upsets Pat and it's annoying. So I think we just say highlights of the event or the meeting that I went to. I think that would be a good way to go.
Well, going forward, we'll make sure we have the word learnings. Councillor Noonan. So,
thank you. I think the point may have been missed. It's more about public transparency, and a councillor newsletter doesn't go to the public, and neither do any of the other options. So I will leave it there if there is no support, but it was more public. So moving on to my next point, which is 10.10, and I do wonder about when we go away. If we go away, I think I've been away twice in 6 or 7 years, maybe three times, not a lot, but we need to get to the airport from home, and it's not sort of stipulated here. Well, it says transportation, but that's at the other end. So that's, well, I presume that's at the other end. So maybe some clarification that includes at home end and at the other end. Maybe that policy does include that. I'll just check with the officers what the intention was.
Actually, I believe somewhere else in this, I can't locate it immediately, it does state that actually travel to the airport is not included. That is following the sensitive expenditure policy of council.
10.16.1, EJ tells me. And I'll just go. So Nikki, did you have a comment you wanted to make in relation to that one? I just go to the CFO who signs all of this off, so she might be.
So through the chair, yeah, I was just going to point out it's covered in 10.16.1, and generally and consistent with the staff policy, we don't pay for taxis at this end unless it's under exceptional circumstances, but we pay because the airport parking is a lot more cost effective.
So, Madam Mayor, are we saying that we should drive to the airport and council pays for the cost of parking, even though that may not be the most cost effective?
So perhaps I can.
Depends how long you're away.
It would depend how long you're away.
Yes.
So if we will be looking for the cheaper option. So if you're just away overnight, then take your car. If you're going for a week, then you'll take a taxi.
Yes. Okay. So that's understood in the policy. Is that your read of the policy?
That's what I'm understanding. The use of taxis is expected to be moderate, conservative, and cost effective. So if you can show that taking a taxi to the airport was cheaper than parking your car at the airport for a week, There's also a shuttle, I think, that can be used. So
Yes,
yep,
different timings.
that's what we'd be expecting, yes.
Right, thank you. Okay, excellent. Any other questions? Councillor Courtney and then Councillor McGurk.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through to Robin, I want to better understand 6.3 on page 11 to do with communication allowance. You mentioned an additional wording there in an election year pro rata payment in an election year. Where is that going exactly? Is it going with a fortnightly basis?
So currently, normal practice is that you receive your communication allowance. Council does pay the full amount determined by the Remuneration Authority. You receive that fortnightly unless you can, at the beginning of each financial year, request to have that in a lump sum. Previously, the policy stated that you could only request that at the beginning of a triennium.
Yes.
And generally, this is to help you purchase hardware, computer, laptop, tablet, printer, etc. Now we are suggesting a change to that so that you can actually take that lump sum at the beginning of each financial year.
Each financial year?
Yes.
As previously, it was the beginning of the triennium.
That's right.
Now you've got a couple of have you got the fortnightly option I see in here as well? You've got that as
It's
well?
the standard option.
Oh,
yes.
that is a standard.
So that is what's currently, if you haven't chosen that, we did offer that at the beginning of last financial year. If you didn't choose, it's your standard option it is currently paid to you fortnightly.
I see. And if you want to take up the annual one, you must, I underline must notify. So the onus is on council.
Absolutely, yes.
Yep. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor McGurk.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. Through just a question in relation to the communications allowance. I think a couple of weeks back we did discuss about the option of the council providing the devices and the policies signed on that particular point.
Yes.
Has that been advanced? Is that idea or concept being advanced in any way? And if so, should it be reflected in the policy?
I think if down the track that does happen, the policy stands. The change to the communications allowance with regards to hardware would be removed. So from memory, it's $200 a year is the communications hardware allocation. So that would be reduced.
So what Councillor McGurk's raising is conversation we had in some workshops as part of developing the long-term plan as to whether we had hardware devices that were councils and that we used them so that we could have consistency of technology so that we could work with those. So we could bring that in, I think, separate to this. It's just that the quantum would be reduced in terms of the lump sum.
The policy is quite explicit that we provide our own devices, but there has been some discussion elsewhere that may change.
There had been, and we hadn't got to consensus, I think, at that point for the purposes of the LTP, but I probably will want to bring that back to you at some point later this year, because I'd quite like to think that for the next triennium, council could have made the transition across to all using the same devices. It just makes it so much easier in terms of information sharing. So we might be asking you, we'll wait and see how the year goes. We might be asking you to be the sort of to trial something. But we just at the moment, we've got quite a bit on. So we'll see if we can get that on the work.
Yeah, that's something in the future. I'm happy to move the recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor McGurk. Do I have a seconder? Seconded, Councillor Edgar. Thank you. Any further questions? No other questions? Any debate? Any questions? No? Okay.
So just to be clear then, the section 6.4, as members are providing their own devices, if we decided to change it, that you would have to come back and change that part of the policy?
Correct.
Does that need to be in there now?
I would suggest that it would be better to bring it back at the time that this actually happens.
I just think in terms of that conversation at the time, we thought that we lost all of our communication allowance or a significant amount, and it turns out it's only $200 of the communications allowance. So I think it's an important conversation to come back to.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. There's no debate. I'm going to put the motion. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Thank you. Okay, next report, same team, is the elected member travel and training budget and criteria, and that's on pages 19 through 27 of the agenda. Robin, any corrections or additions that you want to highlight?
No, thank you.
Thank you. All right, we'll open for questions. Any questions for the officers? No, it's all clear. Oh, Councillor Sanson.
Kia ora, thanks through the mayor. So at page 21, 6.1, it says, it's got the sentence, this does not include induction costs. The equip induction training though has been, for this training was deducted as individual costs rather than out of the pool, is that correct? And I think if that, I mean, that is correct, it was
Yes.
that way. Because I think you and I have had an, or somebody, I've had an exchange with the governance advisors about it already. And I guess I'm curious as to why induction training, which seems to me fairly important for the success of the governance table, would be deducted from an individual's allowance rather than from the pool.
Sure.
That's all. Thanks.
Through the chair. That's correct. There is an induction program which there is a separate budget for. So the LGNZ Equip individual induction training is not included in that. Therefore, it does come out of this budget. It has been allocated to individual elected members who chose to attend that under the current policy. That has been the practice, and actually it's up to this table if you want anything to do with that to come out of the pool, but that has been allocated separately to the elected members. So things like the standing orders training or code of conduct training, which is an across the board induction type training, that's definitely from the pool.
Robin, can I just ask councillors here, who attended that LGNZ induction training at the start of the training? How many of you did?
All the new members.
Okay, all the
new members did.
Yes, okay.
And I think it wasn't clear that it was coming out of an individual basis.
Yeah.
And I think some of us had some questions about the benefits.
That was my next question.
And I certainly wouldn't have, if I'd known it was an individual thing. I mean, you don't know at the time how good it's going to be, but when I saw that it had come out of individual training budgets, I was dismayed. I hadn't known that it was an option, really.
So what I'm going to suggest is, I'm just having a look at where matters are, about overall governance, and I would have thought induction is overall governance. So you're coming in, for first term on council, then really there's a benefit to all of us for you going through a good governance induction. What I think it is better is that comes from the pool. But what I'll also suggest is that will also mean that I think what we need to do, Robin and Debbie, is just given that feedback, and I did get that feedback. I think those members that attended the feedback also gave you feedback that it didn't really hit the mark for what they needed. We just need to be sure when it's coming out of the pool that will trust that our wonderful governance team will have a look at the program, course, and have a think about it and say, is that really fit for purpose for us? And give us some advice about whether we should attend it or not. Does that sound reasonable? So it comes to the poll.
Certainly does. And I think I've noted in this report that we can certainly, if there are changes to the budget or criteria, we can readjust that.
All right. Now that wouldn't require any change to the policy, will it?
No change to the policy.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Rainey.
I indicated that I was going to go to that. Then when I found out what it was for in depth, I realised I didn't really need to go since I'd been a councillor before. So I pulled out, but I was charged anyway. Now, I presume that the amount of time that I left wasn't enough. Under the circumstances, that was interesting.
All right, well, that must be a policy issue with the trainer, I presume, in terms of that pulls out. Okay, all right. Well, I think that would be a better approach. I think that's a good adjustment that we do the induction. All of the induction processes are managed by a governance team, and they'll have a good look at the programs on offer and you know, do the advice as to what we attend. Councillor Noonan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Look, there seems to be times when we don't know when it's going to be deducted, which is what's happened with this one. I just wonder whether, I mean, 5,000 might seem a lot to the public, but 5,000 over 3 years some people don't use it at all, and some people do. But I think the important thing is that you need to know when it's going to come out of your own allocation prior to you, well, maybe when you're looking at going to something, to be reminded that would come out of your allocation. Because I think we've now got the situation where people have some funds that have been removed that they weren't expecting. So if we just have a reminder, yes, you can go to that. That is something that sits in your area, but it will come out of your personal allocation, just as a reminder, because we need to balance up that 5,000 over the triennium, and we may believe there might be something the more important coming up. So if we could have that reminder, and I'm getting the acknowledgement, which is great. Thank you.
All right, excellent. Okay, no further questions. And we someone care to move the recommendation? Thank you, Councillor Noonan. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Brand. Any debate? No debate. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Aye, against, carried. I think that is the last item on the public agenda. We now have items in confidential business. They're set out on pages 4 and 5 of your agenda sheet. Any questions in relation to those matters? No. In that case, will somebody care to move that we go into public scrutiny? Thank you, Councillor Rainey. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor McGurk. I'll put the motion. Oh, sorry, before I put the motion, Rosie and Darcy, thank you for joining us today. Very, very short meeting today, and we'll look forward to seeing you again, hopefully at another meeting. I'm sure we will through the course of the year. Thank you again for being willing to be part of our Youth Council. We really appreciate the mahi and the time that you put into serving your community. Thank you. I'm going to put the motion. All those in favour? Aye, against?